We're on the next line of poetry in the Baiquni poem, in which the author says, وَمَا رَوَى كُلُّ قَرِينٍ عَنْ أَخِيهِ وَمَا رَوَى كُلُّ قَرِينٍ عَنْ أَخِيهِ مُدَبَّجٌ فَاعْرِفْهُ حَقًّا وَانْتَخِهِ. So he says here, and what each peer or any peer, what that which any peer narrated from his brother, meaning his fellow peer, a qareen who narrates from his brother, yani his qareen, his associate. These are peers. This is the narration of peers we're talking about here. Mudabbajun, that's called mudabbaj. Basically means technically the narration of peers. And like we're going to see, inshallah, it's as if it is saying the cheek to cheek narration. Yani, okay. So, what any peer narrates from his brother, from his fellow peer. Mudabbajun, then it's mudabbaj. So then that's the end of that, as far as meaning. The mudabbaj is the narration of someone from his peer, as opposed from amongst his peers, as opposed to narrating from his sheikh. فَعَرِفْهُ حَقًّا, and then the rest of this is filler hashu. So know it truly, properly. وَانْتَخِهِ. We'll see what this part means in the explanation, inshallah. But in terms of knowing what exactly is or having a definition of the mudabbaj, it's here. وَمَا رَوَى كُلُّ قَرِينٍ عَنْ أَخِيهِ مُدَبَّجٌ. What is narrated by any peer from his fellow peer or from his classmate, yani, then that's called mudabbaj. Okay, let's look at the explanation. So the explainer says, that's Sheikh Al-Jabarti, rahimahullah, an explanation of this Baiquni poem, and his explanation is weaved into the text, or you might say the text is weaved into his explanation. He says, وَمَا أَيْ الْحَدِيثُ الَّذِي رواه كل قرين, that which, meaning the hadith which any peer narrated it, من الصحابة أو التابعين أو أتباعهم, whether that's from the companions or the successors of the companions or their followers. وهلم مجرى, or anyone else, then that's mudabbaj. No, yani if you are a serious student of knowledge and you have access to other students of knowledge, then that's how you're going to wind up taking from your peers. Like when I studied overseas, there are people in varying levels, and there are people who took what others didn't take because the curriculums change every year. So they change books for other books. They switch books at different levels. They might switch around, put this one at the higher level now after it used to be at the lower level, like this. So the result would be that they have many students who took what other students didn't take. So what do? Now you need to go to some of the students who are not mashayikh, but they have been taking books by talaqqi, and you are interested in taking those books, and then maybe you took something he's interested in, and then you agree on a time, and he reads on you, and you read on him. And I took a number of books like that from students in our spare time outside of class hours, including the explanation of al-Bayquniyah. Yani, I took the explanation of al-Bayquniyah several times, but the explanation of az-Zurqani, when I was taking it, the sheikh was giving us pieces of it, not all of it. But there was one of these students who did take all of it. So I used to read with him and fill in the gaps that the sheikh, skipped for us at my level at that time. And then I took the whole explanation of Zurqani for al-Bayquniyah, unless there was something that they still skipped. But that would just be something here or there. They were, for the most part, reading the whole book, and maybe leaving out something here or there. And he would say, put this in parentheses. We didn't take this part. So I said all of that just to make you see, how does this happen? Because they are reviewing with each other. Some of them took what others didn't take, and they want to take it. That's since the time of the Sahaba. This is normal, like the Sheikh says here. And the Tabi'un and the followers of the Tabi'un, wa halumma jarra, until now. An akhi, any hadith that a peer took from or narrates from his fellow, bil jarri bil kasri ala lughati naqs, with a kasra on this kha here, an akhi, an. Now there's sukun on the ha only for the sake of the poetry, or else it would be an akhihi, an akhi. And this, what Sheikh Al-Jabarti says here, is that this kasra right here in akhi, that's the sign of jump. The poet, the author of the Bayquni poem, he didn't say an akhi with a ya. Usually there's a ya there. Akhi, an akhihi, ja'a akhuka, wa ra'aytu akhaka, wa marartu bi akhika. There's ya there. But in some dialects, you can drop this ya. In some dialects, you can drop this ya and just go right from the kha to the ha. An akhi. So that's what happened here. And then as a result, the sign of i'rab is the kasra, not the ya, for those of you who know the nahwu. وهو حذف الآخر والإعراب بالحركة الظاهرة. So I pretty much just explained that to you. أي ما رواه كل من القرينين عن الآخر. This means that anything that any one of two peers narrates from his fellow peer, فهو حديث مدبج, then that's a hadith that's called mudabbaj. Mudabbaj. سمي بذلك أخذا من ديباجتي الوجه وهما الخدان. This hadith, this kind of hadith is named after الديباجتان, Dibajatay al-wajh, which means the cheeks of the face. Why? لِتَسَاوِيهِمَا فِي السِّنِّ وَالْأَخْذِ عَنِ الشُّيُوخِ. Yani, because these peers are being likened to cheeks on the face. Why? Because they are even, level. They complement each other, the cheeks on the face. Unless, yani, if Allah willed for you to have a distorted face. If He did, then may He give you a blessed heart. Ameen. But if you don't have a distorted face, then the cheeks of your face are even and almost symmetrical, yani even on both sides. So this is the analogy of these peers. They are like at the same level. They are at the same level. Not that one of them is the sheikh of the other, but technically in the hadith science, here one of them is the sheikh of the other, with the meaning that one of them taught the other one the hadith. Then that one's going to be the sheikh. Not with the meaning that he is his usual standard sheikh to whom he goes to learn. Not with that meaning. Rather with the meaning that the one who gave you the hadith is your sheikh when you want to present the chain of the hadith. So otherwise, those peers are like two cheeks of the same face, even. So it was called, this type of hadith was called Mudabbaj, which refers to the khad, the cheek. لِتَسَاوِيهِمَا فِي السِّنِّ وَالْأَخْذِ عَنِ الشُّيُوخِ. So how are these peers complementing each other then? What do they have in common? What they have in common is age. Usually the sheikh would be older. Of course, not always. Sometimes the sheikh is a youngster that Allah blessed with knowledge, and amongst his students is who is older than him. Then that older one will respect him, like as if he's the older one, because he's the sheikh. You know, Ash-Shafi'i was only 54 years old when he passed away, rahimahullah ta'ala. Yani, that's pretty young in the grand scheme of things, and he was definitely the sheikh, Ash-Shafi'i. Rarely would there be someone who has even as much knowledge as him, let alone more. Rarely. He is one of the most knowledgeable sons of Adam, Ash-Shafi'i, yani, in human history. So what do these peers have in common? They have age in common. And yani, that's approximate, of course. And taking from the sheikhs in common. MashaAllah. Yani, in that way, there's some of the mashayikh, those who are, they are way higher than me though. Yani, I could say, those are peers of mine. Because sometimes we took together and yani, had the same sheikhs, but they would be higher than me. Really, I would learn from them. They are my sheikhs, though. Really. But I'm just saying, could possibly say, yeah. Someone showed me a picture of one of the sheikhs. Said, you know, Sheikh Fulan? I don't know. I don't remember the name. I don't recognize it. So he showed me a picture. So yes, we were together in the classroom. I used to sit next to him. I used to love sitting next to him in class. We were nice friends. We would talk to each other. والجمر في المساواة بين السن والأخذ أغلبي. Sheikh Al-Jabarti says, merging equality in age and taking is normal or usual, not a restriction. وقد يكتفى بالتساوي في السند وإن تفاوتوا في السن. But it's possible to suffice with their equality in chain, in their level of transmission, even if they vary in age. Some of the mashayikh, when I was studying overseas, some of the people in the class were way older. They were older people. And then I was in my 20s. Some of them, they might have been in their 50s studying though. So we are peers. Is a 20-year-old the peer of a 50-year-old? Here, from the perspective of them being at the same level in terms of their transmission, their position in the transmission of the report or of transmission in general. Yani their level, their tabaqa, their level. Meaning, you have, for example, the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Then you have the companions. And yet, then you have the followers or the successors. These are levels. All the companions have the same age? No. Ibn Abbas was a youngster amongst the companions, generally speaking. Yani, when the messenger passed away, he was just a teenager, a young one too. Yani, just becoming just a teenager, about 13 years old, for example. There were then at that time Sahaba who were in their 60s, who were in their 50s. This 13-year-old is the peer of a 60-year-old. In a way, when you regard their being at the same tabaqa level, or stage, I usually would just say level. So that's why Sheikh Al-Jabarti said, merging their age and their taking is aghlabi. It's most of the time. وَقَدْ يُكْتَفَى بِالتَّسَاوِي فِي السَّنَدِ وَإِن تَفَاوَتُوا فِي السِّنِ. And it could be that this is going to be a Mudabbaj report by sufficing with the fact that they have the same level. They are at the same level even if they are varying in age. فَعَرِفْهُ. So know it. Know this kind. أي وَعْلَمْهُ عِلْمًا حَقًّا. Know it with true knowledge. وَانْتَخِهِ. وفي المختار انتخى فلان علينا أي افتخر وتعظم أي افتخر بمعرفته فإنه مهم. And what does وانتخيه mean? I said we'll see when we look at the explanation. Sheikh Al-Jabarti cites one of the dictionaries to tell us what it means. He said in the dictionary Al-Mukhtar, which, by the way, I want to read this dictionary. If anyone has the PDF of Sheikh Ahmed Al-Shami's tahqiq of Al-Mukhtar, Mukhtar al-Sahah, not anyone, I don't want any copy of Mukhtar al-Sahah PDF. Get my hands on Sheikh Ahmed Shami's tahqiq of Mukhtar al-Sahah, please. You'll do me a big favor, and then maybe we'll do all the Muslims a big favor and benefit from that. Anyway, this dictionary Sheikh Al-Jabarti cites for explaining the meaning of this word. He says therein in that dictionary, under this entry, intakha, what does it mean? Yani you would say intakha fulan, intakha, that's a past tense verb. Intakha fulanun alayna ay iftakhara wa ta'azzama. He boasted. Intakha, he boasted, he bragged. So what's the meaning of the line of poetry here? فَعَرِفُ حَقًّا وَانْتَخِهِ. Know it truly and be proud. Yani, something to that effect. Not sinfully proud, not conceited. That's haram. وَافْتَخِرْ بِمَعْرِفَتِهِ. Sometimes you can boast about something without that being conceited. Like you might say, yes, alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim. I'm not something else. I'm with the winning team. Alhamdulillah. And I learned from the Sheikh, for example. There is no harm here. فَإِنَّهُ مُهِمٌ. Be proud of knowing this because it is important. لإفادته الأمن من ظن الزيادة في السند. Because knowing this kind will benefit you by making you safe from thinking that there's an extra name in the chain. Why would you think there's an extra name in the chain? Because usually the peers don't narrate from each other. Rather, usually one narrates from his sheikh. So if there were a chain, and in this chain is from Sheikh Fulan. Now, this Sheikh Fulan, he has a student. One of his students, his name is Yani Zayd. And he has another student whose name is Amr. So usually you would say from Zayd, from Sheikh Fulan, and from someone, from Zayd, from Sheikh Fulan, or from someone, from Amr, from Sheikh Fulan. That's usually how it's going to be. So what if that's what you were expecting, and then you came across the chain that says from this someone, from Amr, from Zayd, from Sheikh Fulan, then you'd say from Amr, from Zayd. Amr and Zayd both took from the same Sheikh. Which one of them is the one who's supposed to be in this chain here? So when you know this kind, then you're going to say, both of them. This is a case of Mudabbaj. Someone narrates from his peer. مثاله كرواية عائشة عن أبي هريرة. Its example is like the narration of Aisha from Abu Hurairah, both of whom are hadith scholars amongst the companions. You knew that. The companions are part of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. They have muhaddithun, they have mufassirun, they have fuqaha, mujtahidun, etc. Aisha and Abu Hurairah were amongst the muhaddithun of the companions. So like a narration of Aisha from Abu Hurairah, وَرِوَايَةِ أَبِي هُرَيْرَةَ عَنْهَا, or a narration of, a narration of Abu Hurairah from Aisha, his Sahaba. Now that's Mudabbaj, the narration of peers. وكالزهري عن عمر بن عبد العزيز وعمر بن عبد العزيز عنه في التابعين. And like Az-Zuhri from Umar ibn Abdul Aziz and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz from Az-Zuhri at the level of the successors of the companions. وكمالك عن الأوزاعي والأوزاعي عنه. And like Malik from Al-Awza'i and Al-Awza'i from Malik fi atba'ihim, at the level of the disciples of the followers of the companions. وَكَذَا مَنْ دُونَهُمْ, and likewise whoever is under them, until even amongst our mashayikh. When I asked some of the mashayikh, who you read this book on? You say, I read this book on Fulan. He would be one of the students of the sheikh, like the one I'm asking. Or sometimes they would have read parts of the book on numerous ones, so that yani, in the process of attempting to complete the book, when I asked
Hajja Hiba,
rahimahullah, who she took the explanation of Al-Ajur Rumiyya from, she told me some of it from Sheikh Abdullah, some of it from Sheikh Samir, some of it from others. She's a student of Sheikh Abdullah, like Sheikh Samir is a student of Sheikh Abdullah. One of my favorite teachers that I had too. Hajjah. Excuse me. Wallahu alam. That's the end of that kind. Then after that, he's going to start another kind of hadith.